Host Lynn Kidd, and today we have a wonderful, beautiful guest joining us today from Eugene, Oregon. So let me introduce you to Jonathan Stemmer. Welcome, Jonathan, today to our dialogue.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to our dialogue. I really value the times that you and I get to dive more deeply into some of these topic areas related to A Course of Love. So
yeah, me too. Yeah. And I'm so glad you're here. And so today we're gonna our topic is prayer, and we're gonna kind of look into the first treatise that's actually a chapter on prayer, chapter 6, and it's called The Act of Prayer. And it sort of gives us a different perspective on prayer, something brand new to a lot of you maybe out there. And so Jonathan, did you want to maybe give us a start here and just, say at first, I'll let you go first, open up the dialogue, whatever is speaking to you right now. It's a little short chapter, only 2 pages, but it's really fulfilling. I guess that would be more of the word. It fills you up. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
well, as you know, and when we've talked before, there's just so much in this book, and when I've probably read this chapter 5 or 6 times through, and every single time there's something new that jumps out at me, right? So this time around, it's hard for me to imagine that I missed this, but it says, how is this revelation to take place? It will begin by learning the art of thought as the act of prayer. And then in the next paragraph, it says, prayer must be redefined as the act of consciously choosing union. So putting those 2 things together, it seems to me that the art of thought, which is what this treatise is about, it's saying that it is the act of prayer, and that the act of prayer is to consciously choose union. And so if we choose union and we open our heart in the deepest sense of that word, not the anatomical heart, but I guess you would call it the emotional, not even the emotional, the spiritual heart, that which A Course of Love says is the center of our existence and connects us to the self with a big S and connects us to Christ, then by this definition, basically what it sounds to me it's saying is that as we surrender the sense of a separate self that is seeking some kind of intercession from a separate God, and instead we consciously choose union, so that we know that the self that we are, which is the big S self, is one with God, that just being in that state is a state of continuous revelation and discovery.
And so I love the way also it talks about how that our life can actually become a prayer, like living every moment in this fullness of divine union and actually choosing union in every moment. It's like you're off the linear timeline and it's a present moment awareness.
Get off that linear timeline and move into that place of time collapse that Course in Miracles and A Course of Love talk about is the miracle and is the miracle readiness. I mean, and if you consider this, right, just in terms of collapsing time, the shift that takes place, if there is no separation, if the act of prayer is choosing union consciously, And we actually are in this, you and I are in the space now of choosing union, right? Then there is no separation. I see myself in you. You see yourself in me. There is no really you or me, but there are unique expressions of that union. And so your unique expression of that union is going to look different than mine.
Yeah.
But it's still, if we're fully in that union, the dialogue seems like it would be a continuous process of revelation and discovery for the apparent both of us. Like we're in it right now.
Yeah.
And while I could say, well, I see an image of you on a screen and you see an image of myself on a screen, we know that we're not that image. And yet we use the image or form to create relationship, to communicate with one another. And that's why A Course of Love talks about union and relationship, or unity and relationship through unity and relationship.
Yeah.
If all I am doing is choosing union, but I have no relationship to anyone or anything, it doesn't seem like that's it. That would, I don't know that would be the fulfillment of prayer. But maybe this is where I'm confused a little bit by it. Maybe that is the fulfillment of prayer. Because if I'm in a continuous state of union, every relationship that I have with anyone, anything, everywhere is going to be a continuous communion and communication with another.
Yeah.
As myself, in a sense. I don't know if I'm just feeling into this.
You know,
as we're here, I'm just feeling into this, because honestly, the state of not knowing seems to be a prerequisite.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm just sharing with you what's coming to me as it's happening.
Exactly. We don't know. We're making discoveries together. And it reminds me of that saying from the Gospel of Thomas. It says, split a piece of wood and I am there. Lift up a stone and you will find me there. And it's like that like you said, we're in relationship with everything. It's like even the plants and the trees and the rocks, you know, split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up a stone, you will find me there. And that is that state of the fullness of union. And I do feel like it's that, you know, in relationship is where I experience that giving and receiving as one, you know, that it's union and relationship. So the relationship allows me to experience that flow of the giving and receiving. And I love when it says here that prayer and miracles work hand in hand. Do not forget what union is. Union is the mind and the heart being joined in wholeheartedness. It is union with yourself, capital S, self. So I love that prayer is another word for miracles. It's that miracle mindedness that we're not asking out of lack.
It seems like almost as simple as what you said about asking for nothing and receiving everything. It seems like the pathway that we're working on, which has to do with wholeheartedness, right? I see it as a path of the heart, even though it's a path of wholeheartedness. And it seems like the path can be expressed with the simple phrase too, in addition to what you just said from that book by Helen Schuckman. It's a process of forgetting and remembering. So the forgetting is a state of is a being in the state of the illusion of separation and the sense of an egoic it's a misidentification, because it's the misidentification of us thinking that we are a separate self, separate from the world. And then through the art of thought and the act of prayer, we begin to remember the divine memory, which is the divine memory of union. And when we remember union, the illusion of separation and us being a separate self is removed, it goes away, and we see ourselves reflected everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no longer a subject and an object, a separation. There's union. And we experience ourselves. And A Course of Love actually has a sentence somewhere either in the course itself or the treatise or dialogues that says, we are the universe. And so if you take that, now you could read that from a place of separation and think that's a beautiful idea and concept, right? Or you could actually see that there's a truth in it. And can we give ourselves over to the truth that we are the universe? We are creation. We are the creator, the created, and the creation, all as one. And it seems like this act of prayer, what I love about it is it's called an act of prayer, right? Is helping us to move from the state of forgetfulness to the state of remembrance of this divine memory that you were talking about. And then also, in doing so, the longer we allow the memory or the remembrance to be sustained rather than what it talks about, maintenance versus sustaining, the longer it's sustained, the more we become identified with this Christ consciousness. The more we become identified with Christ consciousness, the more we are actually identifying with the truth of who and what we are. And in some ways, it almost seems like this is the whole purpose for our existence. I don't know any other reason for us to even be here, but to wake up to this remembrance that you just described.
Yeah.
So
I love too, where, you know, for me, it's speaking to like this memory is a present moment memory, because it says, you know, the divine memory and transforms the divine memory into a present moment experience. And to me, that's a whole different like perspective of memory, because normally we think of memory as something of the past, or we're thinking about the future, and it takes us out of the now moment. But in the holy instant, in the divine moment, the present moment experience, if you're really present with, you know, that right now, there's actually, you're off the linear timeline. You know, there's no past or future.
I also want to say, in relation to the present moment, it seems like, I know A Course in Miracles talks about this. It seems like A Course of Love, when it speaks about, especially in the 40 days and 40 nights, even though I recognize we're staying focused on this chapter, but it seems like it's all encompassing.
Oh yeah.
Is that when it talks about power, accepting power, when I listen to you talk about the divine memory being a present moment experience, there's a connection between that and authentic power. Because my sense is that if we're identifying in that linear time, which obviously means we're identifying as in separation, that we've immediately, by doing that, diffused or taken away our authentic power. And that by coming into the realization of that divine memory, in some ways we activate and we wake that up. And that power, which it's not my power, it's not your power, it is the power that flows through one who has remove these. We've talked about Rumi's quote or Course in Miracles quote, remove the blocks,
Yeah, to
right?
the awareness of love's
Of
presence.
love.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we're doing here. There's a statement in 6, I think it's 6:7 in this chapter on the act of prayer, which is really beautiful. It says, so what happens when memories of past experiences are revisited under the all-encompassing umbrella of a new way of thought? That's the question. The answer, the different personalities become one. The different paths become one path. The future experiences become one. And in this oneness is peace everlasting. Peace everlasting. So it seems like this is what the act of prayer is suggesting, is that when we consciously choose union, when we have that experience of that divine memory that gives us the present moment experience, right? This wholeness that you are just referring to, that in that experience, there is this oneness. So that which is perceived as other and is separate, and all the different many ways that separation takes place, it seems like all that eventually becomes wrapped up into one. But see, I'm listening to myself say that and I'm realizing yes, and because it's union and relationship. So I would not want it to sound like union means not acknowledging the multitude and diverse ways in which the one expresses itself uniquely.
Yeah. We're all connected, you know, we come from the one self, but it's expressed in varying myriad forms. Yeah. And yeah, so I love that, what you just read from paragraph 8, and then the final paragraph, paragraph 9, you know, it says what happens when this oneness is accomplished is that divine memories arise to replace perception. And so, and it says this is miracle mindedness. So to me, that's, you know, I don't know how it's speaking to anyone else, but, you know, we're sharing here in dialogue, and this is not teaching or telling. We're inviting everyone to make their own discoveries. But that's what it speaks to me, that, you know, that miracle mindedness where the divine memory, you know, replaces perception. It's the inward vision, you know, where it talks about in the embrace chapter, we see with the eyes of the heart. We're no longer looking out, but looking in. And then your favorite line from The Little Prince, you know, only with the heart can one see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And that's that's the inward vision. That's the Christ vision. And that divine memory comes to replace perception, that outward, like you were saying earlier, the outward focus where you see something as other than you.
Well, how can you, if we consciously choose union,
right,
then how can we see the other as other?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, what's fascinating is that the more that I dialogue with you and others involved in A Course of Love, and certainly other circles that are similar and looking at different wisdom teachings, it seems to happen though a lot in A Course of Love. I remember when you did the interview for your other series, Heart to Heart, with Laurel, and she spoke about that the book isn't really meant to be intellectually understood. It's more of a transmission of energy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how I experience these dialogues, is that there's a certain energy transmission that opens because we've opened up that so-called field that Rumi talks about, where there is no right doing or wrong doing, right? There's just this place of openness and receptivity and curiosity and wonderment and this realization that we're we are exploring this in community with each other. And there's a certain feeling of I call it heartfulness. There's a place of heartfulness in that, which allows for everything that may block us from this experience of this act of prayer to come forward in an environment, in an atmosphere of embrace, of love, of acceptance. And it seems to me that the more that we do that with each other, the more we're able to let go of the things that keep us from joining with one another and sharing with one another. And the more open we become, the more trusting we become.
Yeah.
And the more free we become. We're not encumbered anymore by the things that have trapped us or kept us in feeling like we're imprisoned. In my case, it's shame and guilt, which I know A Course in Miracles talks about, and other teachings that I've been familiarized with. The imprisonment of the things that I have done out of ignorance and out of the illusion of being separate, and hurting myself and hurting somebody else in the process, and finding that unforgivable. And so now being chained to the past, where I just keep recycling over and over and over again. And if I could let go, experience the divine memory that you have expressed, come into a conscious state of union. It seems to me that that is the place where true forgiveness lies.
Oh yeah.
And it's a process, though, of releasing and letting go of all the things that prevent that divine memory from coming into awareness.
Yeah, and go ahead, sorry.
And it feels like that's why we come together. That's why we come together in groups. The Course of Love is really just, in some ways, it calls itself a trigger. It's really just a trigger to activate that which is already inside of us. And really what we're seeking is connection to that deep place inside of us that we call God, or self, or spirit, or don't call it anything, and our connection to one another.
Yeah.
That's really what we're seeking, so that we can become fully who and what we are.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What I was going to say, just when everything you were just saying, it's like, it's all summed up. Like, it's just like the embrace of our own innocence, that's the whole prodigal son story, like you said, that sharing and dialogue, where a true dialogue opens and we're authentically moving to that space where we share, there's no fear, and we're moving into a place of union and relationship with each other. And there's a wholeness, there's a newness, there's an aliveness that's born. And then we like you said, we feel free. It's liberation. Yeah, I truly enjoyed it, Jonathan. And it was just, I felt like I got in a flow, and it was just very beautiful to be here with you. So I hope, we made a few discoveries, and our sharing was able to reach out to others and give them permission to do the same, and to make their own discoveries, and to move into that union and relationship with everyone. So thank you for being here, Jonathan. It's such an honor to have you always.
I'm glad that I could share this time with you, Lynn. And just to piggyback off of what you said, I do hope that even if one other person listens to this, and it opens them up and gives them permission to open up and share what's really in their heart to share, then it feels like this has been hugely beneficial. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to dialogue with you, and I look forward to future ones.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and be sure to join us next time. We'll have a new guest and a new topic.